Who was Sorzus Syn, and why does her name echo through the darkest corners of Sith history? Before Darth Sidious brought the Jedi Order to its knees and forged the Galactic Empire, the Sith had already been shaping their dark legacy for thousands of years. Yet none left a more profound mark than Sorzus Syn, one of the original Dark Lords of the Sith. Imagine a time when the Sith were not born into their power, but seized it through sheer force of will, adopting the traditions of a once primitive species. Sorzus Syn was among the exiled Jedi who became the rulers of the Sith Purebloods, mastering the dark arts of Sith alchemy and bending life itself to her will. Her power and influence were so great that even the most formidable Sith Lords, including Darth Sidious, sought her ancient writings to unlock the deepest secrets of the dark side. But who was Sorzus Syn? How did she rise to power and become a cornerstone in the foundation of the Sith Empire? Join us today as we delve into the Journal of Sorzus Syn, an artifact that Darth Sidious reclaimed from the Jedi archives to unlock the mysteries of her life, her alchemy, and her indelible mark on the history of the Sith. The journey that would eventually lead Sorzus Syn to reshape the future of the Sith began in exile, a fate intended as punishment, but which instead became the crucible that forged one of the most powerful dark side users in history. Sorzus, along with 11 other Dark Jedi, was banished after the 100-Year Darkness, a conflict that almost tore the Jedi Order apart. Their punishment was severe. Stripped of their titles and exiled beyond the known galaxy, the Jedi believed they were ridding themselves of a dangerous threat. However, in doing so, they unknowingly sowed the seeds of a future empire that would one day challenge the very existence of the Republic. When Sorzus and her companions arrived on Korriban, the heart of the Sith Purebloods domain, they encountered a world unlike any other. Korriban was a land of death and power, a desolate place where the dark side of the Force was not just present but overwhelming. The Sith who inhabited this world were a primitive but powerful people, deeply connected to the dark side in ways that the Jedi had never fully understood. Initially, Sorzus and the others were not welcomed as gods despite their immense power. The Sith were a proud people who respected only strength and saw these newcomers as potential rivals rather than leaders. It took weeks of careful maneuvering, strategic alliances, and ultimately a brutal display of force to secure their dominance. Ajunta Pall, one of Sorzus' closest allies, beheaded Hakagram Grouch, the reigning Sith king, in a decisive act that solidified their rule. With this, the exiled Jedi were no more. They had transformed into the Jin Jedi, the Lords of the Sith. This was the first step in advancing the Sith cause, a cause that Sorzus Syn would take to new heights. Korriban, with its ancient tombs filled with dark side energy and powerful artifacts, became the perfect laboratory for her ambitions. Sorzus was not content to merely rule. She saw the potential to harness the dark side in ways that would ensure the Sith's dominance for generations to come. This vision is what set her apart and would ultimately make her a figure of reverence among the Sith. Korriban's harsh, unforgiving landscape was the perfect crucible for Sorzus Syn's dark ambitions. Surrounded by the tombs of ancient Sith Lords and steeped in the raw energy of the dark side, Sorzus began to push the boundaries of what the Force could achieve. She sought to create and reshape life itself in the image of her dark will. This evolution of Sith alchemy would become her greatest legacy. The dark side had always whispered to Sorzus, even in her days as a Jedi. But it was on Korriban, with its endless well of dark energy, that she truly unleashed her potential. The Sith Purebloods, fierce and primitive, were strong in the dark side, but they had not yet mastered its full power. Sorzus saw in them something to be refined and reshaped through her knowledge. Her first great creation was the Leviathan, a monstrous being born of Sith alchemy, designed to serve as a living weapon. The Leviathans were not just beasts of war, they were engines of destruction, capable of draining the life force from their enemies and storing it within their bodies, their skin blistering with the stolen energy. These creatures were the final culmination of Sorzus' early experiments, beasts that could turn the tide of battle through sheer terror and overwhelming force. But the Leviathans were just the beginning. Sorzus continued to experiment, creating more war beasts and horrors to serve the Sith. She worked with the Kasai, the Sith priests who were skilled in the dark arts, teaching them to twist life through alchemy as she had. Together, they created the Tukata, guardians bred to protect the tombs of the ancient Sith, the Sissus, dark side dragons whose bite could drive a being into a bloodthirsty frenzy, and the Terentatek, creatures bred specifically to hunt and devour Force users. These creations were not merely tools of war. They were expressions of Syn's mastery over the dark side, living embodiments of her will. Through Sith alchemy, she transformed Korriban into a place where the dark side reigned supreme, where life itself could be manipulated and controlled to serve the Sith's ambitions. But her work was not limited to the creation of war beasts. Sorzus also turned her alchemical skills to the crafting of Sith amulets and weapons, imbuing them with the dark side's power. These objects, enhanced through her mastery of alchemy, became more than mere tools. They were extensions of the dark side, capable of enhancing their users' abilities or turning on them with devastating consequences. The most powerful of these amulets could knit flesh, sharpen focus, or even shield their bearers from harm. But they also came with a price. Each one carried a risk, a seductive pull toward the dark side that could drive the weak-willed to madness. Sorzus was relentless in her pursuit of knowledge. She explored the ancient tombs of Korriban, unsealing them to uncover the secrets buried within. In the sanctum of Sacra Claw, she discovered a Sith holocron, a repository of dark-side knowledge that had been lost for over 10,000 years. This holocron contained the teachings of King Nakru, an ancient Sith ruler whose wisdom and power had been preserved within the device. The knowledge within it further expanded Sorzus's understanding of Sith alchemy and the dark side, giving her the tools she needed to push her creations to even greater heights. Sith alchemy was not just about creating weapons or enhancing objects, it was ultimately about control. Control over life, control over death, and control over the very fabric of the Force. Sorzus Syn mastered this control, bending the dark side to her will in ways that no one before had ever achieved. She was not merely a ruler of the Sith, she was their architect, shaping their future through her dark arts. Sorzus understood that the power of the Sith had to be more than just brute force. It needed a unifying philosophy that could rival and ultimately defeat the Jedi's teachings. The Jedi Code, with its emphasis on peace, serenity, and harmony, was a doctrine of limitations, a denial of the natural emotions and desires that gave rise to true strength. Sorzus saw through these inadequacies, and inspired by the ruthless pragmatism of the Sith Purebloods, she formulated a new creed, the Sith Code. The Sith Code was not just a collection of words, it was a manifesto of power. Peace is a lie, there is only passion, it begins, directly challenging the Jedi's insistence on emotional suppression. Sorzus believed that passion, whether it be anger, fear, or hatred, was the source of true strength. Through passion, one gained strength, through strength, power, through power, victory, and through victory, the ultimate freedom. This code, born from the dark wisdom Sorzus gleaned from ancient Sith artifacts, provided a clear and unyielding path to mastery of the Force. It was this philosophical framework that would not only guide her own actions, but also serve as the foundations for the Sith Empire. Future Sith Lords, including Palpatine, would adhere to this code as the ultimate expression of their power, ensuring that the Sith's pursuit of dominance would be relentless and uncompromising. The Sith Code was more than just words, it was a philosophy that shaped every action, every decision, and every battle that the Sith would fight. It was a doctrine of power, of victory, and of freedom from the chains of the Jedi's passive acceptance of the Force. For Sorzus Syn, this code was the culmination of her understanding of the dark side, a guide that would lead the Sith to their ultimate goal, the complete and total domination of the galaxy. By codifying these beliefs, Sorzus Syn provided the Sith with a unified vision, a roadmap to power that would endure for millennia. This code became the bedrock of Sith philosophy, guiding generations of Sith Lords in their pursuit of power. It was this code that gave the Sith their identity, distinguishing them from the Jedi and setting them on a path of eternal conflict and conquest. Sorzus Syn's influence is felt most strongly in her writings and holocrons. Her teachings on the dark side were not just about amassing power, but about how to sustain and grow that power across generations. This long-term vision is what set her apart from many other Sith who sought only short-term gains. Palpatine recognized this. As he rose to power, he understood that the true strength of the Sith lay not just in seizing control, but in maintaining it. He saw in Sorzus Syn a kindred spirit, someone who had laid the foundations for an empire that could last, not just for decades, but for millennia. Her work in Sith alchemy, her codification of the Sith philosophy, and her strategic mind all contributed to a legacy that would guide the Sith through their darkest times and into their greatest triumphs. She was one of the few who truly advanced the cause of the Sith because she understood that power without purpose is fleeting. Her contributions were not just about immediate victories, they were about ensuring that the Sith could thrive long after her time. This is why her name was spoken with reverence among the Sith, and why Palpatine admired her contributions to dark side philosophy. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Sith lore, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Let us know in the comments what other Star Wars stories you'd like us to explore. Until next time, may the dark side be with you.